welcome back. Stage 1, this Honda Civic Stage 1 from Colac to Warrnambool today, 161.1 kilometres. There was big crowds at the start. The wind was up, a little bit of drizzle on the start line, but then the sun came out, the clouds cleared. Well, it was a fantastic group of spectators down at the start line, particularly the school kids. They decorated the street. And, well, I'm joined with Dave McKenzie in the broadcast today, but we covered the map of the course, and wind is going to be a big factor. Cross tailwind all day, but it's really at the 45 kilometre mark that we're really going to see most of the crosswinds take effect to this race. We could see a major split that decides the bike race, Dave McKenzie.
Yeah, we certainly could, Pat. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to all of our viewers, and welcome, as Pat said, to the Honda Civic Stage 1 of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour. We're in familiar territory for the Jayco Herald Sun Tour. Many stages have been run and won in this area, and you've hit it on the head, Pat. We could see the wind blowing around in Colac this morning, and it's gusting and blowy here at the finish line in Warrnambool. The sun is out, though, and it's warmed up. It's actually beautiful weather. It's a nice day. It's not too hot. But that breakaway, and you'll go through those riders that are in that breakaway at the moment as we go to live picks. I think the peloton have got them seemingly under control. We haven't heard too much from back in the peloton, have we? But they're working well together.
Well, last I checked was around about over 3.5 minutes. But we'll give you a bit of a recap on how it all occurred. 3.5 kilometres of neutral was the first part of the day. We were welcomed by local riders. 12 local riders rode out in front of the peloton. They pulled off the front at 3.5 kilometres into the course, and the flag was dropped by race director John Trevorrow. It was immediately that 6 riders broke off the front. Interpro Stradale rider Daniel Whitehouse, he led the charge initially. He was joined by Brad Evans from Mobius Bridge Lane, Liam McGuinness from Drapac Education First, Oliver Martin from Brisbane Continental Team, Kane Richards from Team McDonald's Down Under, and Matt Ross from Quartermentha National Team. And while those riders, they drove the breakaway out almost immediately. It was only 4K into the race, and they were almost 3 minutes up the road, so the bunch did let them go. 3 riders from that group, which is McGuinness, Richards and Ross, they're eligible for the Young Riders jersey today. Keeping in mind we went through the first intermediate sprint, and Kane Richards, who's eligible for that competition, he took the major bonus there. So if these riders were to survive to the finish but be caught by the peloton, he may indeed lead that Young Riders classification. That classification sponsored by Visit Victoria, the Summer of Cycling, and that'll be a white jersey in this tour. But then we went on to the Isoway Sports King of the Mountain, and well, Brad Evans from Mobius Bridge Lane in a powerful sprint only just beat Matt Ross from Quartermentha, who also finished second in the intermediate sprint previously in the stage. And then Oliver Martin came over from Brisbane Continental in third. Those riders, they've worked really well together, haven't they, Dave? Particularly in a tailwind, it can help momentum of the breakaway and seem like an easier day. But a cross tailwind, you tell us from your experience, it is the most difficult wind to have in a bike race.
It is. Look, for the breakaway, it's potentially not the most difficult. It's a good thing. For the peloton, it can be very, very nervous. But interesting, these riders in the breakaway, they're all on smaller teams. Matt Ross, of course, riding for the Quartermentha Real Estate Australian national team, and that's a group of riders that have put together. But the other teams, they're smaller teams. So I think they're a little bit like brothers in arms at the moment. They've got the wood on the World Tour squads at the moment and the larger teams. So they're used to this style of racing, and now they're trying to hold them at bay. So I think that they sense an opportunity, and they're going for it. And, these familiar roads that we've seen over the years to Warrnambool, and we talk about it, obviously, the Melbourne to Warrnambool, a classic one-day event that has been on this calendar, one of the oldest bike races in the world. And many stages of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour have finished in Warrnambool, started in Warrnambool. So it's, they've got an opportunity, as we see, the bid in there getting handed out. I think that's
Daniel Whitehouse from the
is
Interpro Stradale team. He's a smaller rider, a climber, and if they can survive, he's going to really be in a good position general classification wise in the tour. The problem for him, and we just saw that on those live images, he only dropped a metre off the back of the group to get that bottle. He was exposed to the wind, and when it's crosswind and you get exposed, particularly when you're of light frame, you'll really struggle to get back in. And already he's showing just how strong the wind is out there, remembering that there's 120 riders back in the peloton, and when they do that, there's not room across the road, is there, Dave McKenzie, for all 120 riders? So there's going to be a portion of that peloton that is exposed to the wind, and when they're exposed to the wind, that's when you really got to push out so much more effort, and it turns into almost a time trial for those riders that are exposed to the wind, doesn't it?
Yeah, and especially the last 30-odd kilometres. I think, it'll be great to get some live pics of what's happening back with the peloton then, because if they start to turn the screws and if they have to up the ante to bring this breakaway back, that's when you could see some splits. And teams like Mitchelton-Scott, they're not going to wait for another team to go down the edge of the road and split their rivals apart. They'll do it themselves first. And they've got to protect, really. They've got a few guys that can win this race. Former winners, obviously, Damien Howson and Cameron Meyer. But then Esteban Chavez, I mean, he's the superstar, isn't he, on that squad? When the road goes up, he's one of the best in the world. And with Lake Mountain looming in a couple of days, they really need to protect not only Esteban, but one other rider. So we'll see what happens. But you can see here this breakaway now, they are moving along. This is in their favour. This is a really good opportunity for them.
And there's some really strong time trials. Like Brad Evans is very handy in a time trial. So is Liam McGuinness. Matt Ross, he knows how to ride those crosswinds. And this is normal terrain for these riders. These domestic riders are used to racing here. There's several races in this area during the National Road Series season. But they're starting to believe, and this is the thing about young group of riders, half of the breakaway are under 22 years of age, and this group of riders will really be motivated. Young riders, this is a great opportunity for them to pin a really big result. We already know that the Iceway Sports King of the Mountain jersey will be worn by Brad Evans. There was only one on the course today. And right now, they've just under the 60 k's to go. There's about 55 kilometres to go at the moment. So we've got some good coverage today, Dave McKenzie. And to bring these live pictures, it's really a pleasure. I know you race so many editions of the Sun Tour. I raced 9 or 10, I can't remember now, editions myself. And to now be able to bring live pictures during the week, the last stage will be telecast live. But it's really a great pleasure to be able to bring live pictures to the people watching on Facebook via the Herald Sun page. And if you're enjoying it, by all means, give us a few likes. That tells everyone on the race that you are enjoying it, and so we can keep growing.
Tell your friends as well. Tell your friends to get on. No, it is fantastic, and it's been a good initiative by the race organisers in conjunction with, of course, the Herald Sun and all of the major sponsors. So it's a new element, and it just lifts it. And I think streaming, well, it's the future, isn't it? And when we can bring live pictures like this, it's fantastic. So
pictures with such clarity too, Dave McKenzie. It's it's as if you're in the car behind the race. Now we can't bring you pictures of the peloton. It's difficult at this moment because you have media bikes on the course, but we will continue to bring you pictures and time updates as well. The peloton is closing in, Dave McKenzie. That's what I can tell you. The gap is now under the 3-minute mark. And as you spoke before, Mitchelton-Scott, they've got several cards to play in this race. Obviously, you spoke of Esteban Chavez. Damien Howson and also Cameron Meyer, they're well poised as previous winners, so they know what it takes. But Esteban Chavez last year came here as a favourite against Chris Froome, but it was Damien Howson that rode away and won on Falls Creek. And then Chavez was more than happy to be a support role rider, and that was incredible. Actually, in fact, probably won the Tour for him in the end in a flatter stage where he drove it to the line, where a mechanical had happened for Damien Howson into Beechworth last year and saved the race.
Correct, yeah, that was an exciting stage, wasn't it? And it made all the difference. And Esteban Chavez, he knew, and so did Damien Howson, know that he'd be returning the favour when they got to Europe, and that's exactly what he did. So they've got a few cards to play, but this group, they are working very well together there. And see Oliver Martin there rotating through.
Well, if you didn't have the chance to join the stream last night or make your way down to South Bank, we better do a recap of last night's stage.
Dave, it was a great prologue, wasn't it?
It's always that risk when you change the circuit. I said this morning when we were in Colac, that maybe you don't get the sort of the result in the stage. And when I say result, not the person that wins, but overall the entertainment factor. Well, there was no shortness of entertainment. We started the evening off with the women's time trial to finish the women's first ever UCI Herald Sun Tour, and well, wasn't it a beauty? And it was in fact the world champion Annemiek van Vleuten who took out the stage in the rainbow stripes, and that set the tone for the night. Well, Brodie Chapman took out the tour.
Yep.
From unlikely circumstance. No one expected her to do it, and it's a brilliant way to kick it off.
Yeah, she didn't expect, I think, to win the first stage in emphatic fashion, and when we got to the end of stage 1 around Hillsville for the women, Annemiek van Vleuten said there's no chance. She was 12 seconds behind the Australian leading into the prologue, or the time trial for the women as it really is called, stage 2. And she said there's no chance of me catching her. She took 7 seconds on her, the world champion, in the end. So she took 7 seconds, and so she only finished 5 seconds in arrears. But it was just brilliant to see the World Championship colours, the current world champion in the individual time trial, go down the start ramp. There was by then quite a lot of fans that amassed at the start and the finish. We were both at other ends of the circuit, so we had different perspectives, but they were both really good. And the course was brilliant, and the start line there, the area in Alexandra Gardens, so across the bridge from Federation Square and just down on the river. It was more technical, and it was about the same distance, but it just gave a new element, and I think we were all pleasantly surprised, weren't we?
Oh, and the risks the riders took as well. So the women's event, that really set the tone, and then the men headed out for their prologue. Well, Ed Clancy, 10th off the start line, and well, it wasn't just 10th off the start line. He then came through with the fastest time, 1 minute 54.74, and that was the 1.6 kilometre circuit, 50.2 kilometre speed average for him, and he stayed in the hot seat all night long. But there were some real challenges late. Mads Petersen from Trek Segafredo, he really fought hard, and he only fell 0.63 of a second outside of the lead. And next through was Lars Norman Hansen, did a massive back wheel skid to make sure he held it up. Would have cost him the stage, there's no doubt, but he hung on for third, just 0.7 of a second slower than Ed Clancy. And Ed Clancy, he went on from JLT Condor to take out the stage, and they really dominated the stage. Matt Gibson, he remained in the top 10. I think 10th place was his overall result, 1 minute 58, but he is the wearer of the Young Riders jersey today, the Visit Victoria Summer of Cycling Young Riders jersey, the white jersey we spoke about earlier, which is up for grabs for this peloton, this group in the front today. And JLT Condor, as they did with every other classification, they led the teens class also.
They certainly did. So just back on the race now, the current situation for a second, and we've got Matt Keenan, who is out in the race convoy, and he's saying, which we've been echoing here, it is a tailwind. And he said the brake is doing 60 kilometres per hour. We just did talk about the speed. So 60 kilometres an hour. He said they're hooking in, and it's Mitchelton-Scott, Trek, and the Israel Cycling Academy that are driving the chase and causing splits in the crosswinds. So the splits are already happening. We've only got live pictures up with the breakaway, but we can tell you there are splits happening back in the peloton. So this is going to make it interesting. 45, probably just under, Pat, kilometres to go. 3 minutes and 8 seconds. That was the last time gap. This is game on. This is, in a normal general rule, professional cycling, we say 1 minute per 10 kilometres. So they're less than that, and I'm not sure what's going on here. You can see how fast they're moving. The Mobius team car is coming up there, giving it some instructions. A few of the riders are just getting 2 seconds of slipstream behind the car there, but 1 minute per 10 kilometres. Okay, the peloton have got them in control for now, but if they're doing 60 kilometres per hour, the peloton have to be doing 65, 70 to make any inroads into this break.
Well, Mitchelton-Scott are also joining in with Trek Segafredo and Israel Cycling Academy now back in the peloton. And you talk about 1 minute per 10 kilometres, but when it's crosswinds, Dave McKenzie, this group of 6 riders, they've done a great job. They've been out there all day, though. They're fatigued. You're getting fresh legs back in the peloton, probably not touched the wind all day, and now they are ripping into it. They'll be hitting 55, 60 kilometres an hour, and there's no prisoners taken. They just will be looking to get splits everywhere, particularly if you're a team like the Israel Academy. You've got Nathan Earl. He's fast on the line, but he really needs a head start on the guys like Esteban Chavez going to Lake Mountain and also King Lake.
Yeah, they're not, all things considered, they're not going to drop them, are they, on the climb? So, well, another update coming through from Matt Keenan. He's our source of information now from the peloton. There's been a crash in the peloton. 1 rider from Trek has crashed, 2 Drapac riders, and 1 Oliver's Real Food Racing. He's not sure of the riders or who they are, but certainly from the teams. So it is all action stations back in the peloton.
At just 40 kilometres to go now. They're inside the last 40 kilometres of the breakaway. The gap is 2 minutes 40. It's absolutely flying down. This group, they're getting all the nutrition they can. You can see their team cars coming up, giving them all that food, Dave McKenzie, because it's so important. These riders, although they might not be the strongest riders in the race, by the time it's all split back in the peloton and they get caught, because they will get caught, we can guarantee in these conditions, it's very
unlikely.
Yes. They need to have the energy just to hang on today. And you never know, these riders could now become team leaders because other team riders haven't made that split.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in crosswinds. You can be really good, but if you're out of position, that 1 kilometre that matters, you really turn into a poor bike ride very quickly.
Well, you think about it. They've got 1 hour of racing less. If they're doing 60 kilometres per hour in these tailwind sections, they're going to cover that last 40 kilometres in less than an hour. They've got a 3-minute advantage or thereabouts. That was the last check we had. So let's say it's gone a little bit under that now. Let's even say it's down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. They're still only going to get caught, you would think, in the last 20 kilometres, maybe even less than that. So they've got an outside chance without getting real times on the road. We're just relying on our social media updates and race radio, which we don't even have at the moment. But we are getting updates from the peloton, from, of course, Matt Keenan and some other sources. But if it is real and they've got a 3-minute advantage, they have an outside chance of staying clear. And wouldn't this be a turn-up? The smaller teams getting the better of the bigger World Tour squads.
We've seen it before at the Herald Sun Tour,
and that's why things have happened.
That is why the Tour is so amazing. I don't see them surviving away from the group. I just think there's too much at stake here. You cannot give them a big lead. But what we will know is if they can hang on, they will secure a good GC result. We know that the crosswinds are happening. If you want to comment below, we'll reply later on. But maybe a prediction of what you think will happen. Will the breakaway survive or will they get caught?
Yeah, get involved in the discussion. We'd love to get your comments on the Facebook page. Another update back in the peloton. What we now know is it is split into two. And they're chasing, obviously, behind the breakaway. And the yellow jersey, so the yellow jersey is in that front split. So Ed Clancy from JLT Condor, he's in the front split. So far, good for him. And he's forced the other teams to chase. So JLT Condor, they've pushed that pressure onto the bigger teams who really probably have the bigger ambition and the hopes of winning overall. But by day's end, Ed Clancy may well find himself still in that yellow jersey, and that'll be the goal for him. Hang on to it, and hopefully until the Lake Mountain stage, job done.
Yeah, well, that's what we spoke about this morning when they departed Colac at 10:30 this morning. We spoke about Ed Clancy. He would be suited to the crosswinds, even on hillier terrain, undulating terrain, even if you're a bigger guy. If there's wind involved, all of a sudden you become that passista, that sort of punchy climber, because you have the ability to produce the power required, particularly when you're exposed to the wind. Well, Ed Clancy, he knows how to produce power, that's for sure. He produced it last night in emphatic style. But I think this will really suit JLT Condor. I think they'll be disappointed they didn't represent this early break. They could have put a rider in. But it's always hard when you're defending a yellow jersey. They said last night they would honour the leader's jersey. They came to the Sun Tour to take that first yellow jersey, and in particular honour a teammate that never got to join the team, and Jason Lowndes.
Yes.
It was an emotional victory. He was very happy at Clancy, but it was an emotional victory for him and the team last night. So they'll be riding with a red light on the back of their bikes, and so will Israel Academy this week for the Tour to promote rider safety and also remember Jason Lowndes.
Yeah, that was good point there, Pat. And I wasn't aware of it. I was made aware when the first few of those riders from those teams went down the ramp. I saw the red lights, and then one of our producers made me aware of it. So it was very touching and a nice thing, a nice gesture. And riders that we've lost over the years, they'll never be forgotten and always remembered. And no, it was a good touch. But Ed Clancy, he is in a good position, Pat.
He's in a good position. It's split. There's 40 riders. The numbers are coming through slowly, but it was a bag crash. It wasn't actually the crosswinds that caused the split. So 40 riders are split off from that bag crash. There was 4 riders that fell and fell bad. So we're still getting an update on those 4 riders. We know that 2 were from the Drapac Setter. 1 was from Oliver's Real Foods Racing, and 1 from the Trek Segafredo. We're waiting for an update on who they are, but we know that it's a group of 40 at 2 minutes and 28 seconds. minutes. The gap continues to fall. And as we said, in these crosswinds, you can lose 20 seconds in a kilometre. And we'll now say goodbye to Dave McKenzie. He's got to do the stage presentations as well. It was a pleasure to have you here for now. We might even have you pop back in a few moments' time.
May well do, Pat. You enjoy the coverage. I'll look after the live venue, and what a great race. So to all the viewers, enjoy the last hour of the racing.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have Dave McKenzie on with me today for the stream, at least for this first period, and we might be lucky enough to have him join us soon. So the riders in the crash, I'll just get the numbers down and then report them to you. And it seems that it's going to be a difficult one for some riders today to maybe make this finish. So unfortunately, Laurent Didier from the Trek Segafredo, he was involved in the crash, as was young Jack Sutton, should I say, from Oliver's Real Foods. Also from Oliver's Real Foods, Benjamin Andrews was involved in the crash. And involved in the crash, unfortunately for Drapac, was one of their climbers, Jesse Featonby, and also their very strong time trialist, Thomas Kaesler. They were the riders that were involved in that fall, and while it's difficult times, you're really under the pressure in these crosswinds. There's not much room on the road. You're squeezing for every little piece of tarmac that you can get a sit from the wind and drag off that peloton. So unfortunately for those 5 riders, they were the 5 involved with the crash at 37 kilometres to go. It's really incredible action. This stage is not going to disappoint. It's really difficult to predict a winner, whether they'll come from the breakaway or whether they will come from the peloton. What we can tell you, Mitchelton-Scott, they're very motivated, so Esteban Chavez must be in the front part of the peloton. Also motivated, unfortunately, Laurent Didier fell, but motivated is Trek Segafredo, and also on the front is the Israel Cycling Academy. Now, Israel Cycling Academy, it's a brilliant story. If you've got time after the stage, go and check them out on Instagram and also Twitter, because it's an amazing story where they've come from in such a short period of time. And they've got 2 Australians on their team this year, Zach Dempster and Nathan Earl, both present at this event. And Nathan Earl, well, he's done well in this event before. He could do well again this year. I think it's very credible for him to be going for a top 5 overall in the general classification. 34 kilometres to go for this front group of 6. And while they all deserve a big pat on the back because they've worked so hard today, basically attack from kilometre 0, these 6 riders. Daniel Whitehouse from Pro Stradale. Brad Evans, who's now going to be wearing the King of the Mountains jersey tomorrow, regardless of what happens today. He has the maximum points on offer on the Cat 4 climb today. He took 8 points, Matt Ross took 4, and Oliver Martin took 2 points in that classification. Liam McGuinness is there from Drapac Education First. He's the rider that's just swung off the front. Oliver Martin is there. He's from Brisbane Continental, and he's on the front right now. Then slightly behind them, the Team McDonald's Down Under rider Kane Richards, who took out the first intermediate sprint and the 3-second time bonus. And last but not least in that group of 6 is Matthew Ross from Melbourne, the Quarter Mentha Real Estate National Team representative for this race. They are going to be very excited about their rider today getting in this move, and particularly in the conditions that are in the peloton, and just 40 riders remaining in that group. Maybe they've got a few more in the peloton there as well. There's a lot of information coming through to us, but I can tell you what is occurring is that gap is falling. It's falling quick, and a lot of concentration will be the director sportifs, or managers if you like, in the cars. They'll be bringing information to these riders all the time, preparing them for the catch if it's going to happen, or also informing this front breakaway. You've got a chance, boys. We've got to drive it. Keep each other motivated. Tell each other to drink. Keep yourselves hydrated. It's all about that communication, keeping that mind alert and also the body responsive. It's been a tough day out there for these riders. I can tell you it's been a very tough day, and particularly in this area. 25 kilometres to go, that was the sign. So just 25 kilometres to go. As I take a drink of water, it's quite warm down here at the finish line in Merry Street, Warrnambool. It's an incredible finish, and for any of the riders that may be tuning in from, you know, past editions of Shipwreck Coast, it's absolutely brilliant finish, this one. They come at about 3 kilometres to go. They come down a sharp descent, then up an ascent, very sharp ascent, really steep, and then they will then come down flying with a roaring tailwind down to the finish line. It will be a rider, a powerful rider that takes out the stage today, that I can guarantee. But whom that will be, we don't know. caught behind this new split of the peloton. 20 riders now in the front and a second group of 20 riders putting each other right to the left-hand side of the road in this crosswind. And, well, it is really splitting. The yellow jersey, he's in the second part of the peloton, and the front part of the peloton under 2 minutes from this breakaway. Well, Macca said you need a minute every 10 kilometres. Now the equation's starting to tilt towards the peloton. Chasing split group, actually. Probably not so much a peloton anymore, with only 20 riders in that front group. It's an amazing area to race around here, but there's one part of the elements that you cannot get out of the way of. No matter how much time you're around here, it always blows a gale. And, well, that's what we knew would happen in this stage when we left Colac this morning. They had an intermediate sprint at Simpson at the 45 kilometre mark, and then they had another sprint at Peterborough at the 104.8 kilometre mark. And then now they're heading towards us. 23 kilometres to go. This front breakaway is already sitting on 45, 50 kilometres an hour. So have a thought for the riders back in the peloton, sitting above 50 kilometres an hour. Once you drop off the wheel, there's no coming back, unfortunately, as we start to see the first sign of fatigue from that breakaway. And it is Kane Richards. He's been active in the intermediate sprints, but those time bonuses mean nothing if you can't hang on. He's doing everything he can to hang on, but he is the first rider to miss a turn in this breakaway all day. Be interesting to see whether he can hang on to the finish now. As Macca said as well, though, as these kilometres tick down, these riders have got bigger and better opportunities to make it all the way, as Matt Ross on the front for Quartermentha Real Estate continues to drive this group. It's a strong group. Brad Evans, he's been known to be strong in the past, particularly in one-day races, but won the Tour of Tasmania in 2016, and that was an incredible, 2015 should I say, and that was a very big win for the Drapac then, Pat's Veg, now Education First. It was a big victory for them, their first National Road Series GC victory. So he's here now with Mobius Bridge Lane, but he's a strong rider. Liam McGuinness, also an ex-stage winner and third in the under-23 individual time trial championships just 12 months ago. He is an incredible athlete, and it's good to see that he's really knuckled down over the summer, got fit, and he's come here prepared. So he rides for the Drapac Education First team. And they add some real potency to this breakaway. Tasmanian rider Oliver Martin, well, he's taking advantage of every opportunity he's getting at Brisbane Continental this year. They get a start in this Jayco Herald Sun Tour, and he's come out in this breakaway and tried to put his name on the scoreboard against some of the best pros in the world. Interesting, I want to find out maybe if Kundacourt is in that front split for Trek Segafredo. He can really make a difference. This is a stage that would really suit the Trek Segafredo rider. Dutchy by nationality, Australian by character, I call him. He's a lot of fun, and a lot of the Aussies love him. Under 20 kilometres to go, just slightly over 21 kilometres to go, we're being told, for the breakaway, as more gels and bars are hung out the window for these riders. They'll be absolutely running low on fuel now. Such a tough day. And, well, the Sun Tours, they never disappoint, particularly on regional roads. These regional roads, they're not as fast as, say, Beach Road or your CBD roads, because they're a bit rougher. And we know in the Melbourne to Warrnambool how hard that race is. Well, this is going on the roads that would have seen the Melbourne to Warrnambool race years gone past. Hasn't disappointed at all this stage. We're waiting for another update from the break, but from the peloton, should I say. But until these cars move out, we know that the breakaway still has more than a minute's break. So for those at home that aren't aware how the convoy works, once the break reaches a minute gap from the peloton, a team car can then go up and service their rider. Once that gap comes under the minute, they'll pull the cars out of the gap between the breakaway and the peloton, and they'll go back to the convoy that drives behind the peloton. That's to stop any kind of motor pacing or drafting effect from the vehicles that are following the riders, and make it so there's no advantage for any of the riders, an unfair advantage at that. You can see the big gears they're turning over, almost spinning out their biggest gear on the bike, but it's Kane Richards who's showing the first piece of fatigue in this Sun Tour stage from Colac to Warrnambool. Honda Civic Stage 1 of this, the Jayco Herald Sun Tour 2018 edition. Well, I'm not envious of this at all. This would be a very painful day for these riders out in front, and it's not for the faint-hearted at all. There's cross tailwind, as we can see. It's coming across the right-hand side of the rise as they go. There's the 20 kilometre to go. Honda Civic there on the bend. They'll make sure that all the riders come through safely. Well, 20 kilometres to go. That's going to take them less than half an hour in these conditions. We're going to really see an action-packed last. As we see these cars getting past now, that's not a good sign for this breakaway. There still is cars behind them, so the breakaway has more than a minute's advantage, but it can't be much more. As Ed Clancy, he still cannot make his way back at this point. He is in the second part of the group. That's not good for Ed Clancy. He's only 15 seconds behind, and the last group on the road 30 seconds behind the peloton. Well, the breakaway, they've worked really well. They're extending their lead at this moment. The breakaway at 2.5 minutes. They're going out, actually. This is an incredible effort by these 6 riders. Well, 5 riders now and a passenger, because Kane Richards, he can no longer contribute. Well, maybe he's thinking, I'm the fastest rider here. If we can survive, I need the legs to be able to survive, though. And well, the big rider from McDonald's down under, he could pack a fast sprint. Don't know a lot about Kane Richards, but one thing's for sure, he's put himself on the map today. Well, that's what you do. As these cars continue to go up and give updates to the breakaway, this is integral information for these breakaway riders, as their team cars may not be following the breakaway. Obviously, these are one rider out of the 7-man team, and the team car will have to go back and service the other 6 riders during the event. So they'll go back and give the riders water, gels, bars, maybe rice cakes, food like that can keep their energy levels high. They can't just think about today's stage. They've got to also think about Sunday. You know, if they're in contention for the general classification, but their legs fall off on Sunday because they haven't looked after themselves during the week, well, it's no use. So we continue to see Matt Ross. He's incredibly motivated to drive this breakaway, and he has been putting down the hammer for the last 20k. You can really see at about the 40 kilometre to go mark, he really upped his work rate. Kane Richards, he's paying the price on the back, but the rest of this group is continuing to work well, and it actually doesn't look like they're saying much to Kane Richards, so maybe he's been pretty honest all day. We haven't had live pictures until this last hour and a quarter of racing, but it is an absolute pleasure to bring you live stream of this, the 2018 Jayco Herald Sun Tour. Stage 1, the Honda Civic Stage 1, Colac to Warrnambool. Already we've seen the King of the Mountains jersey here for today. That's decided. So the Iceway Sports King of the Mountains jersey will be worn by Brad Evans from Mobius Bridge Lane. Still waiting for confirmation about who will lead the sprint classification. I'm waiting to see if they know about whether we know the leader of that. Do we know the leader of the sprint classification? Still waiting for confirmation. They're coming through now. This is where the cheese factory is. This is where a lot of bike races have been started in the past. So nearly 15 kilometres to go. Chase group of 30 riders at 38 seconds. So that time gap before with them going out was wrong. 38 seconds back to the peloton. That's why those cars came out. They came up and gave the last drink. We've got Brad Evans. He's calling for a drink. He's going to have to get that off one of the spare motorbikes probably, because there will not be cars let in that gap now. 38 seconds. There's 30 riders in that group. And after that, there's a small group containing that, the yellow jersey, the winner from last night's prologue, 50 kilometres an hour. Well, he's going to need to do 55 right now, because they are storming to the finish here in Mary Street, Warrnambool. And it won't be long. We're going to see these riders, because they're inside 15 kilometres to go. They've got to be there. They turn left. This will be straight tailwind now, so there will really be a benefit for this breakaway. 38 seconds was the time gap back to the peloton, and then behind that another 25 seconds is Ed Clancy. Well, he only won the time trial last night by 0.6 of a second, so unless he can make contact back with the peloton, he won't be wearing that yellow fleece tomorrow. And also it's important to remember that there's also time bonuses on offer for the sprint stages. There'll be 10 seconds on offer for the win, 6 seconds on offer for second place, and 4 seconds on offer for third place. Those sprint time bonuses may seem small in stature, but if you're a decent climber that can pick up 4 seconds in one of these flatter stages, stage 1, 2 or 4, you're really going to appreciate that at the end of the tour, because a lot of the time in these Jayco Herald Sun Tours, when you're in the top 10, 11th and 12th and 13th, 14th place, sometimes they're only 2 seconds behind. So if you can pick up a little time bonus, that can elevate you into the top 10. You're picking up UCI points, and particularly for the domestic riders, it puts them on the radar of the bigger teams over in Europe. Well, it's 14 and a half. There's a 15 kilometre now. 15 kilometres to go for the breakaway. It is Liam McGuinness. He's been impressive today. I must admit, I'm very happy to see that. Saw him drop away a little bit towards the end of last year, and he's got so much talent. It's great to see him back racing hard and motivated, particularly here over the summer. That'll stand well for him going forward. It looks like Kane Richards, he's starting to help out too, because these riders, as the camera goes forward, we're going to see the peloton roaring down on this group. 14.5 kilometres to go. The peloton within 200 metres, just 30 riders remaining in that. So really, all up, we've got 36 riders in contention to win this first stage of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour 2018. And well, who will it be? Well, I'm not even going to throw out an answer there, because it's hard to know of what riders consist in that breakaway. What we do know is Mitchelton-Scott, Trek Segafredo, and also the Israel Cycling Academy. They've been incredibly motivated to ride the front of this race, particularly in the crosswinds. That's going to mean that they've definitely got major representation in this race. Well, we're going to get some more pictures as this peloton comes on. It's going to be very close. So driving the front, it is Israel Academy. It's Zach Dempster that's on the front. You can see the three orange jerseys there from the Rompot Lottery team. They're there as well. So, well, we've got a real race on here. And if that's 30 riders, it's only just because it looks a lot smaller group than I think that they've told us. I reckon about 25 riders. So 31 riders, 30-odd riders are in contention for this stage, and particularly for this tour. This Herald Sun Tour is being decided on day one, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're enjoying this coverage, make sure you give us a thumbs up or comment below, because it's that kind of reinforcement that will make us continue these streams. Well, you see these team cars now. There's not many teams that are represented in this breakaway. I did see Trek Segafredo rider Kundakort. He's going to have a good chance. Also a rider that might be up there is Tim Erison from the Rompot Netherlands Lottery team. As we see a rider getting dropped here, I think this might be the breakaway rider of, it is in fact Liam McGuinness from the breakaway. The force of the peloton, he's trying everything. Keep it going, Liam. We want to see you back in there. I'm sure Mum and Dad are on the line watching. Well, this group's going all the way. They've basically got a tailwind all the way to the finish. They will soon, though, hit the strong ascent that I was talking about earlier in the broadcast. It is very, very steep. And particularly if you're tired, which every single one of these athletes would be, it's going to hurt the legs. Trying to grab some more numbers there. Well, Brisbane Academy, they've got a few riders there, in fact. So the Brisbane Continental team has Michael Vink, who performed well there last night. Also there, Ryan Thomas, he's a fast rider. Kundakort on the outside in the red colours for Trek Segafredo, he's there. We can see at the back now, Brad Evans. He doesn't want to sit there, Brad Evans. He has to move back up the front of the peloton, because when they turn again in a moment, they're going to go back into the crosswind. Arison is there, that we spoke about. Tim Arison from the lottery team from Rompot. Number 3, that looks like it is in fact Michael Hepburn. He will have really driven the pace, but if he's there, I think you'll find Esteban Chavez is there as well. He's just up a little bit further on the left-hand side. And well, right at the front, it's difficult to tell the other riders that are present. Benelong, Swiss Wellness, they look like they've got 3, maybe 4 riders there as well. And well, it also looks like potentially the Young Riders jersey has made it into this move. Well, that'll be a big one for Matthew Gibson. We'll get confirmation in a moment. We can also see Larry Warbass. He's the USA national champion. He's there as well. Looks like Damien Housen on the front. He's doing a truckload of work, but that's not good for Michael Hepburn, who's last wheel. Cameron Bailey looks like he's there. Also there, looks like it is also from the Benelong Swiss Wellness. It looked like Chris Harper. And that's definitely Sam Crome in the middle. So we've got some information there. So we've got Arison is present. We know Zach Dempster's there. That probably tells me that Nathan Earl is present also. We also know those breakaway riders are all in that group. So 27 riders consist in this breakaway now. This front group it is. Court there for Trek Segafredo. We know that Michael Hepburn's there. Esteban Chavez is present, and also Damien Howson, but waiting for confirmation on that because the pictures are a little distant, but they only have around about 8 kilometres until the finish. This is where they continue in crosswind, and you can see them going to the right-hand side of the road. Not good for Esteban, who's at the back at the moment, but this is incredible. This could be the foundations for a big victory here for Mitchelton-Scott, because they've got enough riders here, not only for teams classification as well, but if Esteban Chavez is here, he may be the only serious climber that survived. I'm assuming that Nathan Earl is there, and I'm also assuming that I did see also, should I say, Cameron Bailey there, who can climb, and Chris Harper from the Benelong Swiss Wellness outfit. Brad Evans right at the rear, Oliver Martin there as well. 77. It is Steele Von Hoff. Well, Steele Von Hoff's there, ladies and gentlemen, and he looks like he's primed. 6th in the Cadel Evans Road Race. He also finished a strong performance at the Race Melbourne. He was 3rd at Race Melbourne, 6th at the final stage of the Tour Down Under as well. Steele Von Hoff, he'd have to be a good chance here. Big, strong finish. It's slightly uphill here at Mary Street, Warrnambool. Block tailwind though. Zach Dempster, he's got to be a chance too. A good opportunity. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities this year, but he finished 8th in stage 4 of the Tour Down Under as well. They both rode for the national team there, the UniSA outfit. Number 4 is definitely Esteban Chavez. Number 31 is definitely the rider of Tim Harrison. 145 is Matt Ross from the breakaway. It'd be interesting. I did see one more national team outfit in there, but I can't see the number. Well, Esteban Chavez needs to move up. 54, is that the rider? Thomas Stewart, we spoke to him this morning at the D-Part. He looks like he's only rider there for JLT Condor. So it looks like Ian Bibby might have missed this split. As Matthew Hepburn comes back to find Esteban Chavez. That's what the great teammates do. Also there definitely is Damien Howson, trying to keep a close look. Trek Segafredo look like they've landed 2 riders in this group. They've definitely got Mads Pedersen there, the Danish national champion. He's up there on the right-hand side of the group, right down on the inside, just in front of the Brisbane Continental rider. Well, this group is the elite of the elite for this race this year. They are definitely going to decide this race. It was always going to be the one stage that was a worry. Don't worry, tomorrow could do exactly the same thing, and that'll be in the back of the mind of these riders. If I make the finish today, that's not where it starts and finishes. It's still tomorrow. Tomorrow, an important transfer day. Tomorrow, obviously, starting in Warrnambool, finishing in Bunningong. Plenty of activities at the finish line. But this, the Honda Civic Stage 1, well, it hasn't disappointed entertainment-wise. They left this morning at 10:30. They rolled out and the breakaway went straight away. The peloton left them out there like a bunny rabbit to the greyhounds. But then right near the end, 45 kilometres to go, strong crosswinds inspired the peloton to really make a move. And it was Trek Segafredo, Mitchelton-Scott and Israel Cycling Academy that really made the difference. So Esteban Chavez there for Mitchelton-Scott, Michael Hepburn there for Mitchelton-Scott, and also Damien Howson, I believe, is present as well. We're not sure about Damien Howson, but it looks like 3 riders are definitely there for Mitchelton-Scott, so they'll be happy. And this tour will go and see the Mitchelton Winery later in the week, but there's definitely 3 riders there, Mitchelton-Scott. There's definitely 2 riders there from Trek Segafredo, 3 from Rompot. There's 3 Benelong Swiss Wellness riders there, including the fast finisher Steele Von Hoff. We know Zach Dempster is present in the group. We know that we've obviously got our breakaway riders that we've had there all day. None of them have been dispatched, so Daniel Whitehouse is there, Brad Evans is there, Liam McGuinness is also present, Oliver Martin, Kane Richards and Matt Ross. So now we see a split off the front. 5 riders have slipped off the front here. This is very dangerous, and this is where it really turns into needing your teammates. So Rompot sitting at the back, that's not where you want to be. Got to move up as Brad Evans searches to move up the peloton. Whitehouse is at the back. We know Larry Warbass is in there for the Aquasport team. He is the national USA champion, and it's an absolutely striking jersey. probably the best looking national kit in the peloton for mine, but the Danish national champion Mads Pedersen, he's up there too now as the counter-attacks come. This is where the splits happen. Steel von Hoff, he's sitting at the back. That's not where he needs to be, but Bennelong is represented in that split at the front. Maybe it is the rider of Dylan Sunderland. It looks similar to his action. Hard to tell from the pictures that we're getting. Trying to bring you as much information as I possibly can. So if I am not calling out all the riders, I'm doing my absolute best here. But it's brilliant to bring you this stream. Tell your friends and family about it if they would love to enjoy it tomorrow as well. We'll bring the final hour of every stage, at minimum, the final hour of every stage this week for the tour. And obviously the final stage, well, that's going to be on television. Group Comparto, as the Italians say. It's back together. The group is back together. Unfortunately, some of the riders from the breakaway, in particular Oliver Martin, it's not the place you want to sit right at the back. They'll come up here, they'll swing to the left, and they won't have very far to go. They'll have that strong kicker that I spoke about up to the finish, but a roaring tailwind. Roaring tailwind is Rompot. Look at Rompot moving up as a combined unit. Those three riders, not that far to go now. It's got to be close to 5 kilometres to go. I'm waiting for an update. 5 riders that split off the front have been rejoined by the rest of this breakaway. Kundercourt is confirmed and Mad Pedersen confirmed in that front group. Steel von Hoff is got to be a great chance for mine. Zach Dempster, I tell you what, this is absolutely the type of finish he would have put on his breakfast plate any day of the week 2 years ago. Can he refine those legs that got him those big contracts, particularly this one at Israel Cycling Academy? I reckon he's a good chance too. And sometimes on Aussie soil, you really produce your best legs as an Aussie. Well, that looks like about 6 or 7 splitting off the front now. I can tell you who's not in that 6 or 7 is Liam McGuinness, who's at the back, and so Oliver Martin, those riders from the early breakaway. You've got to feel from Brad Evans. He's just trying to hang in there. He doesn't mind, though, as much as it's terrible he gets dropped if he does have the King of the Mountains jersey sewn up. Liam McGuinness is going out the back now, and so is his counterpart in the breakaway, Oliver Martin from Brisbane Continental Team. Now look at Brad Evans. He's struggling. He's trying everything to keep on the wheels. But after you've been out in front for 150 kilometres, the legs just don't agree. Computer says no, and that's what's happened. So 6 riders off the front. I can see the Bennelong colours because of how bright they are up the front. Brad Evans, day over for him. He'll be at the presentation, though, for the King of the Mountains jersey. The Iceway Sports King of the Mountains jersey. Still waiting for confirmation about the Gatorade sprint classification. I've only got the results from the first intermediate sprint. Well, that front group of about 10 riders is motivated, and this second group is certainly not. Trying to catch the numbers here. Being caught out of that is number 71, which is Chris Harper, and number 74, I think it was. That would be no, it's 73, which is Dylan Sunderland. So it was right. Dylan Sunderland and also Chris Harper. That does mean Steel von Hoff is in that front group of 7, right at the front. And I tell you, I can also say that the big rider from Yala Academy, which is the Israel Cycling Academy, it looks like Zach Dempster's found himself in that front group, waiting for confirmation. And well, we're not far. They're not far from the finish at all. About 4Ks, 5Ks to go. It's really going to come down to the wire. Something special has to be moved. I think that's Nathan Earl. So Nathan Earl definitely present because that's his action. He's just attacked from this second group. And you must think that Esteban Chavez might be involved in that front split. I tell you what, if Esteban Chavez has found himself in that front split, that is a magic move by Mitchelton-Scott. And while Michael Hepburn, he's the perfect guy to have by your side. As we see, Liam McGuinness, he's made his way back, but can they make the back of the group? Oliver Martin, they're trying everything, these riders. They've got hearts of gold, trying everything they can, but the pain would be so hard right now for these riders. They'll turn this corner. They'll nearly be able to see where we are at this finish. They can't be far from the finish. It's difficult. We are going to try and bring you the kilometres to go. But now we're going up to the break. We're going up to this front group. It'll be able to tell us who's in there. And then you'll see just ahead. They come up that long straight, and that's the finish. They can see us now. Well, who's in this front group is going to really test it out. We know Steel von Hoff. I can confirm Steel von Hoff because he wasn't in that bunch. And who else is there? Right now we're getting closer. Waiting for that bike to make contact with this group. I'll bring you the riders as quickly as I can. I do know Steele Von Hoff, he's there. The JLT Condor rider, Tom Stewart, he looks like he's made it as well. Thomas Stewart, I think we're waiting now. Yeller Academy was there. There's 2 Benelong riders there. Rompot rider, that's Arison that's there as well. They've hit out early down the right-hand side. Von Hoff back at the back. Oh, there's a couple here. So Von Hoff and Sam Crome. Looks like Sam Crome or Cameron Bailey. Difficult to see the numbers at the back. That is the rider of Michael Hepburn. Also, Kundacourt, he is in there. Kundacourt's definitely present in that group. Looking for the other riders. It's difficult to see them. Steele Von Hoff's the rider in the bright lime colours there. Also, it looks like a rider from the Brisbane Continental team. And if I'm having a look at my numbers now, that's got to be Ryan Thomas. He's a fast finisher, Ryan Thomas. Kundacourt there. Also there is Steele Von Hoff. We know that. We know that number 7's there, which is the rider of Cameron Meyer. Well, that's a dangerous rider. Cameron Meyer, Mitchelton-Scott. So that was the 3rd rider from Mitchelton-Scott. We know that the young Esteban Chavez isn't here. So it is Michael Hepburn and it is also Cam Meyer, a previous winner of the Tour in the past. In 2016, he took the Tour out. And well, now we follow these riders in and they're going to come into the home straight. They've got a roaring tailwind. It's only going to be not that far to go. I'll have a look at my course mocker in just a moment's time. Try and tell you all the information. Well, this split is definitely very decisive in this race. This is going to decide the Tour. And another split off the front. And I tell you what, Steele Von Hoff, he's in the second part of the group. So his teammate that's gone off the front is going to try and take this out. He takes a long attack. They've taken that left-hand turn into Ward Street, 1.3 kilometres to go. They'll veer right here. That's a kilometre to go almost. Not that far to go. We're watching. No, this is the left-hand turn now into Ward Street. So 1.3 kilometres to go. 1.3 kilometres to go for the riders. They take this left-hand turn. They'll then go and veer right at the 1 kilometre mark. 300 metres to go. They cross a major intersection. No, we're getting a bit confused here. Try and keeping up with it. That's definitely Ward Street now. I'll try 3 times lucky. We've turned left into Nicholson Street. Now it's left into Ward Street. Oh, looks like a bit of tactics being played here. So the rider there, 70. It's definitely 76. Well, this is really a nail-biting finish. So Cameron Bailey. It is Cameron Bailey. It is Cameron Bailey there. Tom Stewart's there. Michael Hepburn, number 15, which is the from Trek Segafredo, Ruben Guerreiro, the Portuguese national champion. He's going to hit out early. And well, this could really play in the hands. Kundacourt, we mentioned him earlier, if he was there, the Dutchie by nationality, but the Aussie by character. They go up this little kicker. They're going to come over the top here. They'll have about 800 metres to go. They can see the finish now. They'll be able to see the finish. They can see it, they can hear the speaker. Dave McKenzie on the front stage. Peels off the front. At the back it is Cam Meyer. He'll be looking for a bit of a move like he did in the Cadel Evans last year. He does. He goes, but then he stops because it's his teammate, Michael Hepburn, that's jammed down the accelerator. They're a bit caught out here. Mitchelton-Scott, they've got confusing tactics right at the moment. Right at the back, Cam Bailey. And then in front of him is his teammate of Steele Von Hoff. Tom Stewart, he can sprint. He can also climb. It's going to be a great stage for him too. We'll be watching. I reckon it's going to be between Von Hoff and the rider from Trek Segafredo, and that is Kundacourt. Guerreiro is doing the work. He's going to have to pull a big turn here. It's going to be a big win here. Lasse Norman Haas it is. It's Lasse Norman Haas. He's going to get caught. He's going to get caught right on the line. And it looks like Kundacourt very close. No, it's all slapping the bars there. It looks like, I think Kundacourt might have taken this out. Let's wait for confirmation. Housen was there. Lasse Norman Haas, he has won. Lasse Norman Haas has taken out the stage, ladies and gentlemen. I can confirm from Aqua Blue Sport, he has taken out the stage. Lasse Norman Haas. Waiting for second and third confirmation. I know that Kundacourt did a drive to the line. Guerreiro, who helped him in the final in Cadel Evans Road Race, he did the job again. We'll wait to see. Steele von Hoff there, Cameron Bailey there. Well, the rest of the peloton comes in now. Mads Peterson there, but Damien Housen was present, so it was Damien Housen and Cameron Meyer. We had an update from Mitchelton-Scott. They didn't know if Damien Housen had made that split. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a brilliant stage. Check out Twitter and the homepage for the results. Going to sign off.
They were about a minute 20 seconds behind.
Minute 20 seconds was the gap back to the second group, so a massive split back to the main group. So we're going to have a brilliant race to start tomorrow, but it is, ladies and gentlemen, Lasse Norman Hansen, he takes out the Honda Civic Stage 1 of this, the 2018 edition of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow.
It's a really big splinter. There's Alex Edmondson, the Australian road champion.